Welcome to Deadscape Diaries, where the shadows of the unknown come to life. Today, I'll be sharing the chilling tale of Dr. Emma Carter, a brilliant scientist whose groundbreaking experiment at a sleep clinic unleashed something far more terrifying than nightmares. Get ready to dive into the horrifying consequences of opening a door that should have stayed locked. Now, let's begin. My name is Dr. Emma Carter. If you're listening to this, it means someone has uncovered the truth about what happened at Somnos Labs. I'm recording this as both a confession and a warning. I thought I was helping humanity, pushing the boundaries of neuroscience. Instead, I opened a door that should have stayed locked. It started as an ambitious project, a device to cure nightmares. I'd spent years studying the amygdala, the part of the brain that governs fear. My team and I designed a machine capable of dampening activity in that region, effectively erasing the terrors that plague so many people in their sleep. It was revolutionary, or so I thought. The corporate sponsors at Somnos Labs were eager to see results. They wanted us to fast-track human trials, bypassing the usual safety protocols. I had reservations, but the pressure was immense. Careers, funding, and reputations were on the line. I told myself the risks were minimal. After all, what's the harm in a little less fear? Our first human subject was Liam. He was in his late 20s, with dark circles under his eyes and a twitchy, nervous demeanor. Years of chronic insomnia and vivid nightmares had left him desperate. "I just want to sleep without seeing them," he said during his intake interview. I didn't press him on what he meant by them. At the time, it seemed irrelevant. The first session went flawlessly. Liam sat in the treatment chair, electrodes attached to his temples, while the machine hummed softly. I monitored the brain scans as the device suppressed activity in his amygdala. When the session ended, Liam seemed lighter. "It's like a weight's been lifted," he said with a tired smile. For the next 2 days, he reported dreamless sleep and an unusual burst of energy. He was sharper, more focused. It felt like a victory, proof that our device worked. But on the third night, everything changed. Liam stumbled into the lab just before midnight, drenched in sweat and trembling. "They're here," he whispered, his voice shaking. I tried to calm him down, but his eyes darted around the room as if he were tracking invisible shapes. "I see them even when I'm awake now. They're watching me." I checked his vitals. His heart rate was elevated, and his pupils were dilated. I chalked it up to an adverse reaction, perhaps a surge of suppressed fear finding a new outlet. I planned to adjust the settings on the machine during his next session. But before I could, Liam collapsed. When he woke, he was different. His voice was deeper, almost guttural, and his movements were jerky, like a puppet on tangled strings. He stared at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "Thank you, Dr. Carter," he said, his lips twisting into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You've freed me." Before I could respond, he lunged at one of the technicians, his strength far beyond anything I thought possible. He threw the poor man across the room like a rag doll. The rest of us scattered, screaming. Security was called, but Liam, or whatever he had become, disappeared into the labyrinth of the lab. The next few hours were a blur of panic and chaos. The power flickered, plunging the facility into darkness. we heard screams echoing through the halls, followed by an eerie silence. I hid in my office, barricading the door with whatever I could find. My mind raced, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. That's when I found the files. Buried deep in the company's encrypted database were reports from earlier, secret trials. The device didn't just suppress fear, it severed the mind's natural barriers, unleashing something primal and inhuman. Fear isn't just a weakness, it's a gatekeeper, and without it, darker instincts take over. I realized I had to stop Liam before he escaped the lab. Using the backup generator, I rerouted power to the treatment room and set the device to reverse its effects. All I needed was to lure him back. It didn't take long. He found me, his distorted body emerging from the shadows. His limbs were elongated, his skin pale and stretched tight over his bones. His eyes, they were black voids, empty yet filled with malice. "You can't stop this," he hissed. "We're free now." I ran, leading him to the treatment room. Adrenaline and sheer terror kept me moving as he closed the distance, his inhuman growls echoing behind me. Once inside, I activated the machine. The room filled with a blinding light and a deafening hum. Liam screamed, a sound so unnatural it made my ears ring. When it was over, he collapsed. His body was lifeless, but his face was frozen in an expression of pure terror. Whatever part of him had been human was gone, and whatever had replaced it had been destroyed. The lab was shut down the next day. The company buried the incident, blaming it on a gas leak and quietly settling with the families of the victims. As for me, I've left neuroscience behind. I can't sleep without seeing Liam's face or hearing his voice. Fear is a necessary part of who we are. It's not a weakness, it's a warning, a safeguard. And now, I know what happens when you ignore it. If you're ever offered the chance to rid yourself of nightmares, remember this: some doors should never be opened, and some dreams should stay dreams. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark corners of the human mind. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to Deadscape Diaries, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new tale. Have you ever experienced a nightmare you couldn't escape? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and sleep well.